Hey there, welcome back to my channel. My name is Brian. I make videos on a lot of things that I'm interested in, and this is something that has been rejuvenated as an interest. I did this when I was much younger, 13, 12, 13, 14, 15, and likely 16 years old. I was into this hobby. So hang tight as you can see what it is. But I'm excited to bring this to you, and I need to make an intro. So let's jump into it. Here we go. To give you a little bit of background about me, just so you know, I'm just not some really new person that's gotten into this, and that I totally am new at it and I don't know what I'm doing. That is not the case. I did this growing up for many years, and I actually went to different tracks and raced these, and received trophies when I was younger. And then maybe when I was in my 30s, I got back into it, and then I got out of it. Everything's just really expensive, and you do other things and you lose interest. So over time, and so now it's an interest again, and so I'm excited to get back into it and have some fun, because it's always been a lot of fun in the past. So let me just tell you about my history, and I made some notes here. I started out in 82 or 83 with a Tamiya Super Champ. My mother took me to, we had a really cool store in the mall that had, this toy store that was just mega toy store back in the early 80s, late 70s, when the malls were really big. And I can't remember the name of the store, and that was a Tamiya Super Champ in 1982 or 1983. My memory's always a little foggy, so let me get through this real quick, and then we'll jump into the car. And then a few years later, I got into the Super Champ, with that back shock and the gimmicky front shock that was up above, and the shocks kind of squished it in. I hit my limit on that pretty quickly, and so I got a Tamiya Frog, and then that's when I first started racing. And then I raced that, and I could see the performance was way down. It was an NIMH pack. That's pretty much the only thing in these days that you had. And so the performance was down compared to the rest of the folks that were racing at the track. And so my dad was pretty cool, and he bought me a full ball bearing kit for the Tamiya Frog. So I raced that, had fun with that, bashed that. We didn't call it bashing back in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. It was just playing with your car, your truck, whatever it was. You're playing with your toy. So, and then I really stepped up my game. I got one of the first series of RC10, Team Associated RC10 Gold Pan, the one with the aluminum, chassis that went, to the buggy. They didn't have the trucks. This was just the buggy. And another cool, interesting fact is I was one of the first. I'm not saying I was the first, but the first generation or the second generation, 1985 or 1986, the first ESC Novak speed controller. And so back in the day with the gold pan chassis, when I built those up, I built like 3 of them. I had some friends that bought them, and they didn't want to put the time in to build it. So I was like, I'll build it. I built it for free, and I was really good at it. And mine had the speed controller that had like a transistor terminal, ceramic terminal, and it had little metal pads on it, and then you hooked up a little arm to a servo, so it had 2 servos, and the servo had a little wire that hooked to it, and it went to the transistor, and it went across this transistor board, and that was the controller for the speed and the brake, the reverse polarity of the brushed motor. And so I had that. Next I had, when I was in probably my 30s, was the OFNA 9.5 gas buggy. I graduated up to nitro, and it was a 4x4 buggy, and it was a 1/8 scale. It was really cool, really fast, really hardcore because of the sound and the smell. And that was 2003, 2004. And then I bought, of course, probably when I was in my 40s, a Slash 4x4. I really wanted to get into supercourse trucks, and so I got a Slash 4x4, and that was 2009, 2010. And then after that, my slash 4x4 was kind of breaking down. The center bearing was getting really dirty all the time. I was having to go through just eating bearings. And I just really got kind of fed up with that. It was also a higher chassis. Again, this was 2009, 2010. So it wasn't as performance oriented as I wanted. So I graduated in 2011 and 2012 to a true racing vehicle, and that was the Associated SC10, the electric version, and it had the original version had the Mambo, the Castle Creations, system in it. It wasn't the Reedy system, so it was a green motor, 2200 or 2400, but it was a large motor, man, and you could barely sprint it. The magnets were so powerful, and then it had the Mamba Monster ESC. So that thing was a rocket ship, and that was a joy to drive. And I drove that till 2011, 2012, and man, I drove that thing into the ground, and ended up having to buy all new drivetrain components because I drove it so much and I wore it out, and I wore my batteries out. I charged them back to back to back to back to let's see, the 4S batteries, Gen Ace, good batteries. And now I also got a kind of a lame car. It was the Kyosho Mini Z, and I had the McLaren P1, and that was about 2019. And I had that for a little bit and rode that around on the carpet and got very bored of that very quickly. So that's where we are now. You know, one day I saw an ad and I was like, man, an Associated RC10 or SC10, and I was like, those have got to be getting good now, or better, or have progressed, and I didn't keep up with it since my Associated SC8E, and E means the electronic version instead of the gas version, because they had two. They had the gas engine and the electric, and so the same model, but it had the motor was switched in the electronics. So now, as you can see, I have the brand new, and I don't know if this is the same, in 2022 and 2023, or 2021, 22, 23, but this is the Pro 4, so it's four-wheel drive Pro 4 SC10, excuse me, and you can see it here. It's brand new, just got it today. Before I want to make an intro video before I go out and get it really dirty, and and maybe mar it up. So this is it, and I'm really excited. This Team Associated has always been a stellar vehicle, and I always debated between, because I haven't owned a Losi, and I always knew how good those were, and I always kind of wanted one. Same thing with Canon cameras and Nikon cameras, or now it's Sony cameras. The balance, between what should I get, and then you buy, and then you wish you kind of got the other, but then you may be really excited with what you have. But this is it. I'm going to run the factory speed controller for a while, and maybe I like that. I don't want to spend a bunch of money in this hobby as I've done in the past. I just want to have fun, replace things as they need to be replaced. And then just real quick, I've got to solder on the electronic speed controller, the XT90, because it came with the Deans. And so I need to wire that up, because I'm going to go with the better connector this time, because this is a 120C battery. It's a 6,000 milliamp battery. So I bought a really high quality battery, and this is a power hobby. I was just watching some videos. Of course, when I get interested, I watch YouTube, and there were a couple of people that had these and recommended them, and then I went and looked them up. They had stellar specs and were very affordable. I think this one was $59, and it was the highest C rating, and the others were like 5,000, 4,000. This was 6,000, and then it had a good connector on it. So need to wire that up before I go drive it today, but that's the battery, and that's my intro. So I appreciate you listening. Hopefully I'm going to try to get some good video of it. I'm a one-man show. I'm going to probably set up tripods and have my camera looking, so I'm not going to be able to follow it around, because I am an old school two-hand driver, and there's no way for me to hold a camera or run around and chase it with a camera while I'm hitting the throttle and turning. I'm not one of those people that has a thumb and the dexterity to do the throttle and the thumb.